Hello, I'm the 10-minute English teacher. Let's get you exam ready. Today we're thinking about Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and I'm going to be providing you with a guide and summary to Stave Three. Before we get going, don't forget to like and subscribe. There are plenty of things on the channel to help you get exam ready for both English language and English literature. Okay, Stave Three. In front of you now are 8 key images, and they all relate to significant moments that take place in Stave 3. By the end of our time together, you should be able to recall all of the major events that happen in Stave 3. Stave 3 begins with the ghost of Christmas present. A ghostly light radiates from Scrooge's room, and he goes next door to find the ghost of Christmas present sat upon a throne of food. The ghost of Christmas present is a direct contrast to Scrooge. After being taken through the Christmas streets, he is then taken to see Christmas at the Cratchit's house, where they have very little apart from love and happiness. Bob suggests a toast to Scrooge, the founder of the feast, and the mention of his name casts a dark shadow on the party. Scrooge, showing a little more consideration than he's known for, asks if Tiny Tim will live, and he's told that in the future all he'll find in Tiny Tim's place is a crutch without an owner, so Scrooge comes to realise the child will die. Just to let Scrooge know that he's alone in his selfishness, the ghost of Christmas present whooshes him about a bit to show him glimpses of Christmas here, there and everywhere. Scrooge is shown miners celebrating and gets a glimpse inside a lighthouse and a ship at sea. And after that, he's taken to Fred's Christmas party to see what he's missing out on, having refused the invitation to spend Christmas with Fred and his friends. Scrooge enjoys being there, albeit invisibly, and a guessing game is played, and Scrooge is the butt of a joke, being likened to a disagreeable animal. Fred then talks about his Uncle Scrooge, graciously comes to his defence. Fred mentions his money, but tells his guest that it brings him no happiness and says, "I pity him." At that point, 2 strange ghosts come out of the ghost of Christmas present's robes, who is growing visibly older, and we're told that they are ignorance and want personified. In a prophetic moment for Dickens, the ghost of Christmas present says, "Beware ignorance or suffer doom." And the chapter ends with the arrival of the ghost of Christmas yet to come. So after cleverly throwing Scrooge's words about the poor back at him, the ghost of Christmas present disappears, and a lone phantom, draped and hooded, approaches Scrooge like a mist. So to take it further, there are those 8 key moments from Stave 3. What you could do now is write 1 or 2 sentences about each image to show that you can summarise the chapter with confidence. And now we're going to move on to quotes to know. So we've got the ghost of Christmas present being described at the opening of the chapter. He has a sparkling eye, which is significant because in chapter 1, Scrooge is noted to have red eyes. This ghost also has an open hand, which is a direct contrast to Scrooge's hands being a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone. That image of hands is used to make a contrast here. And he's also unconstrained and free, which is a subtle reference to Jacob Marley's chains, those consequences that Scrooge is going to suffer in the afterlife. We've got Christmas at the Cratchits. They have a custard cup without a handle, which is significant because they have so very little. Scrooge is told that he'll find a crutch without an owner in Tiny Tim's place, and the ghost of Christmas present throws Scrooge's words back at him and says that if Tiny Tim is to die, he should hurry up and do it to decrease the surplus population. And the mention of Scrooge's name casts a dark shadow on the party. That use of darkness versus light there from Charles Dickens again. Fred talking about Scrooge, he says, "I pity him." And then the chapter ends with the ghost of Christmas yet to come arriving, draped and hooded and like a mist. So lots of allusions to death there from Dickens. If you want to take it further, here are some of those key quotes with some key words removed. Can you complete the quotes? And if you can't, use the play bar to revisit those. Okay, it's time for analysis. So we've got contrasting characters again in this chapter. So Scrooge is a contrasting character to the ghost of Christmas present, and he uses juxtaposing descriptions to characterise the ghost of Christmas present. Scrooge has got red eyes, he's got a sparkling eye. Scrooge is a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, and the ghost of Christmas present has an open hand. So there's direct juxtaposition in those references to the 2 characters. We've again got that binary opposition of darkness versus light that's quite prominent in this chapter. Scrooge faces suffering in the afterlife unless he finds redemption, and this idea in the narrative is symbolised in that opposition of darkness and light. The symbolism of light and darkness is prevalent in Stage 3. The ghost of Christmas present is associated with light, which reflects the idea of redemption. We've also got ironic echoes that take place in this chapter. So the ghost of Christmas present uses Scrooge's words against him, and they're ironic echoes when he does. When Scrooge asks the ghost of Christmas present about the meagre children that come from his robes, the ghost turns Scrooge's words against him, asking, "Are there no prisons?" Scrooge's words are used as ironic echoes throughout the chapter. We've also got messages for the reader that continuously take place in each chapter, and this chapter gives us another message. So any messages for Scrooge, it's important to know they're also intended for his middle-class Victorian readers. The first ghost has told Scrooge to change, that he'll be happier if he does, the idea of Christmas and family leading to happiness. And the second ghost, while he does also echo that message, tells Scrooge that it's a moral obligation to be more generous. The idea of the Cratchit's suffering being alleviated by Scrooge's generosity is hinted at. And the final visitor to Scrooge that we get reference to at the end of the chapter is emphasising the idea of consequence in the afterlife. And there's a little bit of context for us to consider here. So Charles Dickens wanted to change the attitudes of his Victorian middle-class readers to the poor. They would have never been in the home of a working poor family, so he takes them directly into one when he takes Scrooge to the Cratchit's house. The middle-class Victorians had plenty of disposable income, lots of money to spend because of things like factories made that possible for them. So the Victorians were the first middle classes to own lots of things, lots of ostentatious things, to show off their wealth. And for the first time, they had lots and lots of stuff. The fact that the Cratchits own a custard cup without a handle is intended to elicit pathos, and it was intended to make his middle-class readers reflect on their own wealth and their responsibility to others in society. So if you want to take it further, to wrap things up, there are those 8 key images. What key references to each of those can you remember, and what analysis can you affix to each of them? Okay, check out the other videos on my channel. I'll continue to add content. Feel free to ask something you'd like to see me cover in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share, and keep revising.